What's up, guys? Welcome back to the next video learning C++. My name is QDS Dan and you guys watching my channel Crywood. Alright, so in this video we're gonna show you guys what is early binding as opposed to the late binding or dynamic binding as we discussed in the previous video. Early binding, when binding is performed before the program is run by the compiler, it's called early binding, as the name suggests. And if it's very easy to understand, when binding is performed before the program is run by the compiler is called early binding. Our choosing function during compilation in normal way is called early binding. If someone comes and asks you when the binding is performed before the program is run by the compiler is called early binding, our choosing function during compilation in normal way is called early binding. So there is two sides of this. Keep in mind, early binding is also called static binding. As I said to you guys time and time again in the previous videos, the early binding is also called the static binding. Early binding resolves a function call at compile time, as opposed to the late binding. As I said to you guys in the previous video, late binding resolves a function at the run time. The early binding resolves the function at the compile time, because in the previous video the compiler doesn't know anything about the function when it comes, but this is different. This is the compiler knows what they're doing, because examples of early binding is overloaded function calls, as we have made a video about this, and we have explained to you guys extensively about the overloaded function calls. So if you guys don't know anything about overloaded function calls, you guys go and watch my previous videos about overloaded, how you guys gonna overload a function and how you guys gonna overload operator function calls. So the examples of early binding is overloaded function calls and overloaded operator function calls. And as explained to you guys in the previous video, that examples of late binding is virtual functions and polymorphism in virtual function. This is also called of polymorphism, but that's overloaded functions and overloading operator function calls. And this is early binding, and the late binding comes in with virtual functions and pure virtual functions. The main advantage of early binding is efficiency. It requires less memory, it is fast, but it's not flexible. Keep in mind, as I say to you guys, this is quite opposite to the late binding. And the late binding, as I said to you guys, it's not very fast, it's not very efficient, but it's a flexible. But this one's early binding is the main advantage of the early binding is efficiency, because it's very efficient. It requires less memory, very less memory, and it is fast. Why it requires less memory? Because everything is already explained in our loaded function calls. Because every time you guys making function, you guys putting some type of parameter, say your parameters int or string, or you guys gonna put double or something else, but your parameter is different. That's why it's fast, because the compiler comes in and it's going boom 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 boom. It's going very fast. It compiles in a fraction of millisecond. And it's very fast and it requires less memory and it's fast. But in late binding, because you guys putting virtual functions, but the compiler doesn't know anything about the virtual functions, and it waits for you guys till it comes in runtime, and it goes one by one. It creates a virtual table and it pointing towards each of these tables and each towards these methods, pure virtual methods, and it's gonna execute that one by one. And it's not a fast, and that one's not efficient. That one's not a fast, but it's flexible. But this one is quite opposite to that one. The main advantage of early binding is efficiency. It requires less memory and is fast. And this is last but not least, if a virtual method is called by object's name, as I shown you guys, if you guys call it by object's name, the appropriate version of this method is known at the compilation time, because this is overloaded function and an overloaded operator function call. So the operator already knows. But that in opposite to the late binding, the operator doesn't know the compilation time. The compiler doesn't know anything about the function. But this one, the compiler already knows. That's why it's efficient, it requires less memory, and it's fast. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you guys have any question or comment, leave in the comment box. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video, and bye.